Good day, podcast community. PeteKane here, and we have special guests on the show today. And we want to bring them to you because we hope that you'll have a better understanding after we finish what some things you can do in your community. So we'll start with Larry. Larry, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll go to Gordon, and then we'll get started.
Sure. I'm the North American chapter leader of the Rotary Action Group for Addiction Prevention. We provide Project SMART program for Rotary clubs throughout North America to address addiction and overdose.
Awesome. That is so good. Gordon, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast.
Absolutely. So I'm Gordon Owens, past district governor for District 6900. And in terms of today's podcast, our district was awarded a large grant from the state of Georgia and the Opioid Trust. And so Larry and I met to start working on some of those projects together. So looking forward to today's conversation, Pete, and hopefully this will encourage people to help us spend some of that money in good ways around the state of Georgia.
Wow. Yes, absolutely. We're aware of the opioid crisis, Larry, but there's a lot of misinformation out there that people maybe have heard years and years past. Tell our viewers, what is the SMART project doing, and what is kind of more up-to-date information that'll help our viewers understand better about how you are and your organization is attacking this crisis?
So we have a board of directors that's made up of physicians and treating physicians and psychiatrists and drug counselors and nurses that all have experience in this field. And we just sat down and when we went to start this project to figure out what people have been doing in the past, what had worked and what didn't work. And what we discovered was that there was a lot of programs out there in communities already that were addressing the issue, but we're only addressing a piece of the issue. And literally the problem is all these people are working and still working in silos, and they don't work together.
Mm-hmm.
So we took those pieces that we believe could make a difference in a community and put together in one project called Project SMART. And Project SMART stands for S, a school training program, an M, which is our medicine and safe drug disposal, our A, which is our awareness and our overdose training, our recovery, and our treatment. And we believe it takes all 5 of those pieces in a community to make a lasting impact. And it's interesting that happens to be the theme for this year from the Rotary International president, but that's actually what we started with 5 years ago now, was what can we do with Rotary clubs in a community to make a lasting impact like we did with polio. And, we eradicated polio. And so why can't we do the same thing with the problem with addiction and overdose deaths? And so that's why we believe it takes those 5 parts. Now, just those 5 parts, there's a lot of organizations that are doing pieces of it around the country, but nobody has brought all 5 parts together, number one. And number two, nobody has been able to provide actual current data on what each one of those pieces of the project is doing in a community. Give you an example, our safe drug disposal. So these kiosks and bottles that we put around communities where they dispose of their old medications, we're able to provide on an annual basis to a city, to the city's Rotary Club, to the district and Rotary International, an exact amount of pharmaceuticals that were removed from the environment in that local community. So we're providing local community, local Rotary clubs data on what their project is doing. And we do that with all 5 pieces of Project SMART, provide data to that local Rotary club, that community, so they can see that the Rotary Club is doing something. Right now, Kevin Tanner, who is in the state of Georgia, that is a Rotarian and is actually dispersing this money to the Rotary clubs, can tell you that it's really difficult to get data on grants that they give out. And so they want to see this project because we can provide them that data.
Mm. You know, I often ask people about Rotary, and they'll say, "What is Rotary?" So, Gordon, could you address, like, they Rotary tends to take action and get things done in the community. You're in Roswell, and you got this grant. What was it that spurred that, and what do you guys hope to accomplish with Larry's support and help?
So yes, Rotary is often referred to as people of action, and we had to take some quick action last year, and we've got a little bit longer runway this year. So we gave clubs across the district, my own home club in Roswell included, got grant money to do really one of two projects. You could put in a rescue kit. So in a school, a box that if there was an overdose, it has everything you need to counteract that overdose and rescue that child. And then disposal units. So this is a disposal unit that allows you to come pour the drugs down and dispose of them. And as soon as they hit the jug at the bottom, they're rendered inactive. There's a chemical reaction that happens. The beauty of that, and many of the disposal places are inside of a police station, or they're under lock and key at a pharmacy, and they're not really public accessible. So I can't just go in anytime or to get rid of opioids that I may have laying around from a past surgery or something like that, where these kits that we were putting in are perfectly safe to put anywhere, because you can't take the jug and then go use the drugs. They're done as soon as they go into the jug. So they're safe to put everywhere. So far, we've gotten grants to do 11 of those disposal units and 80 of the rescue boxes in schools all across the state. So, and that's not even half of the money that we have available to do additional grants. So we're hoping this year we'll be able to expand and do some of the other parts of Project SMART within our district. So we can leverage some of that money to do some of these additional activities within the schools and in the communities.
Awesome. You know, I love following the data, and data is what truly makes the difference. Larry, you've mentioned the data, but tell our viewers, like, why is Project SMART getting that data, and how important is it to make those advancements when you're attacking something as big as opioid addiction?
Well, I'll give you an example. Our test city happened to be Tallahassee, Florida, back in 2022 and 2023. And what we discovered with that data was that they trained thousands and thousands, they still train thousands and thousands of people in Tallahassee, Florida every year on overdose training. And people are carrying that medication around with them. And because of that, this is a fact, anybody can look it up on the DEA website. Tallahassee, Florida was the only community in the whole United States in 2022 and 2023 that lowered their overdose deaths, and lowered it by 28%. And the reason is because they did so much overdose training in the community, they were able to save people's lives. Now that's only one part of Project SMART, but if we can keep them alive, we can get them into treatment. And so we do know that it works. We do know that piece of the puzzle works because we have a list of every person that took that overdose training. When somebody takes overdose training in a Rotary Club, we have their name and email address. We know where all these people are. We provide that information to the local Rotary Club. We're going to be in Buckhead, Georgia. I think it's next week, and training, I believe, about 50 people in Buckhead that are going to do overdose training. And so we'll have that list of who those trainers are. And then when they hold the class, we can report to that club and report to the district. This is how many people they trained. This is how much medication was given out. And if anybody saved a life, we'll have that data also, because that's what nobody is putting out. I mean, I was in a city in Oklahoma. I forgot what the name of it was, right outside Oklahoma City. Oh, Ardmore, Oklahoma. And the fire department, when they let me ride along with them, took me down to a place where they've been putting out these kiosks. And in these kiosks, they're putting out overdose medication in it. And he says, within an hour, look at it. It was filled up 2 hours ago, and it was completely empty of about 100 of overdose medication. He says, we don't know if they were used. We don't know who used them. We don't know if any lives were saved. We just know that it's all being taken. And he says, what we have learned is when we go to a call for an overdose now, when we get there, about 75% of the time, the people are not even there, but there's 10 or 15 of the overdose medication laid all over the street or the house or wherever it was. And so nobody knows what's going on with that. We need to know what's going on because we need to know if it's working or not.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Gordon, at your club, specifically Roswell, you have been recognized in the past. What do you think makes a difference in a club that really exceeds and does well in the community and one that may not do as well?
I think the underlying thing is energy. It sort of becomes infectious. I know when I was governor and I went around from club to club, you could sort of walk in the door and a club either had that sort of buzz about them or they didn't, right? And if they had that buzz, there wasn't anything that they couldn't do in that community. And it didn't matter if it was a 15-person Rotary Club or a 500-person Rotary Club. So, I'm not a proponent of I'm from a big club, and usually folks are like, oh, you're in a big club, you can do whatever you want because you're in a big club. Well, big clubs have their own set of challenges, and you either have that energy or you don't. And in this particular issue, I don't think that there's any Rotarian anywhere that's not got 1 degree of separation from them and addiction, right? I mean, they know somebody, their family member. We've had several clubs or members in our club that were directly impacted from opioids. We had a grandson that passed away from an opioid overdose from one of our club members. We've got several people who've had their own struggles with addiction and are now in our club and doing great and, want to get back to the community and have got their life back on track. So it's, I don't think that any club anywhere is sort of safe from this or insulated from this. And whether it's opioid specific or it's alcohol or it's another drug, addiction certainly plagues our communities, and every club can relate to that. But my club in particular has taken this topic on for years and years. I mean, we've done opioid awareness things long before we had grant money to do it. But we're happy to help, spread the word and this is one of the many things we'll do to fight the fight in our community.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so important. Larry, we see and we hear a lot of things, and sometimes it's secondhand, sometimes it's through another person. But you have educated me on the changing environment out there in drug addiction and the strength of drugs. Would you share with our viewers, really from somebody that's on the front line, seeing it, talking to people, what do we need to know today that we should be aware of?
Well, I can tell you, back in 1975, when I first became a paramedic, the problem was people overdosing on morphine. I mean, morphine was the street drug back at that time, and we had naloxone, and we'd start an IV and we'd give naloxone to somebody, and it worked really good. The problem now is that we have the fentanyl, and fentanyl is 1,000 times more powerful than morphine is. And currently, the new street drug, which is literally taking over the country as of today, is called cyclorophene, and it's 10 times more powerful than fentanyl. So you're looking at a drug that is so powerful compared to the original drugs that started this whole thing that we need to have a stronger overdose medication. I can tell you that first responders tell me every day, I'm talking about police, fire, EMS, about having to give multiple doses of Narcan. I'm talking about 4, 6, 8 doses to resuscitate somebody. And first responders will tell you, especially fire and EMS, that every second that person is in an overdose, they have hypoxia, lack of oxygen to the brain, and they know that something needs to be done faster. And so that's the reason that Rotary has decided to partner with OPVI, which is the newest, strongest overdose medication out there. And one dose is equivalent to 4 doses of naloxone or Narcan. And so, who knows what's going to be next? I always tell people as a paramedic, it was morphine, black tar heroin, crack cocaine, methamphetamine, pills, fentanyl, now cyclochlorophene. Who knows what's going to be next? So we have to address the issue that we have currently, and we can't sit back and sit in our hands based on what we've done in the past. And that is trying to use the same thing to treat something that has definitely changed from in the past.
Mm-hmm. That is. So you're going to be coming in from Arkansas to speak to the Roswell Rotary Club. When you go in and speak to a Rotary Club, what do you like to do as far as education? Are you there trying to get them to the next level, or are you there as initially introducing them to what is possible with opioid addiction?
Yes. So our job, and when we speak to clubs, and we have state directors in North Carolina and California that also speak to Rotary clubs there. And our job is to really motivate the club members to do something with Project SMART in their community, so that they can say at the end of the year, here's data, this is what we actually did, which currently they are not doing. They don't have the data. The state can tell you they're having a hard time getting data. And so we want to change that. We want to change that to where the Rotary Club is actually doing something, and they can come back and say, I give you an example. Tallahassee Rotary Club, every year when they go to the city, they provide them at a city council meeting with a certificate of exactly amount of pharmaceuticals they've removed from the community in that last year. And they go to the city council as the Rotary Club and present it and say, this is your certificate. This is what we did. And so that's what we're trying to get that local Rotary Club motivated to do that. And as Gordon says, when you walk into a club, you can really tell what's going on. I've spoken to pretty close to 1,000 clubs now in the last 4 years. And when you walk in, you can really tell. But it's really amazing. We have a 98% success rate of clubs speak to that start Project SMART. And it's what Gordon said. There's usually somebody in the club, that family member, themselves, or somebody they know is involved in this addiction problem. And so they get really excited about it.
Yeah, so good. Gordon, what would you say when you said it, the energy and the excitement in your club? What does a Rotarian do in the community that our viewers may not know, that they can understand a better idea of what Rotary is doing to really give back to the community and make that difference?
So I would I'd say, for my own club, there's probably not much that happens in Roswell that isn't, going through Rotary, right? And a lot of it's behind the scenes. We're involved in our Memorial Day festival, or our lost the name of the Youth Day Parade. We have Interact clubs in almost every school in town. There's all kinds of things that sort of quietly are happening that aren't necessarily big publicized events. But our hands are there, and we're there serving alongside our community and trying to make it one of the best places to live and work and play, in this part of town, or this part of the state. And that buzz, that energy comes from, we're all friends. I couldn't tell you who's speaking at my club this week. It's been broadcast. It's in the newsletter, but I'm going because I'm going to go see my buddies, right? And I'm going to go see my friends. And when I get there, one of those friends is going to ask me to go do something. Can you come volunteer at this? Can you help me with that? And I'm going to say yes, because we're buddies, right? And we've built friendships, and those relationships that you build in Rotary are lifelong, lasting relationships. And my wife and I, even though she's not a Rotarian, she's part of the Rotary family, and
Mhm.
we've got great friends that have been built over years in Rotary, and we look forward to it every week. We are constantly doing stuff with our Rotary family and in our community, and the larger Rotary world. Now that I've served as district governor, I've got a lot more friends all around the state, and sort of constantly doing something both socially and for service through Rotary. So that's just part of the appeal. I've told young people in my life the best way to get engaged in your community is join your local Rotary club.
Yeah, I agree. Larry, you talked about, I go over to the men's extension, the women's extension. I have addiction in my past, so I'm more sensitive to that journey and that route. But I was talking to a gentleman this past week, and he was talking about, I said, well, how are you doing in your journey? And he was sharing that he's doing really well, but he was separated from his family, and he thought that was really hard for him to really, he knew it was needed, but he was separated. And you shared on a previous podcast about some of the ways that SMART is approaching it that doesn't require separation from the family. Could you share that with our viewers?
Sure. So one of the things we discovered, especially from the Rotarian physicians that are on our board, um, is that people don't necessarily have to go to a rehab or a recovery center to overcome their addiction. In fact, we discovered that the success rate of rehabs and recovery centers is about 39% nationwide. And actually, there's one that we looked up in Florida that's $65,000 for 6 months, and their success rate is 9%. And so, why are we spending money separating them from their families, sending them out of state somewhere when they can get immediate treatment at home? And so, we have collaborated with the North Carolina Medical Society, Project VBOT. They're the ones that actually invented 24/7 telehealth treatment for addiction during COVID. And they have this down to a science. And so part of Project Smart RT is to provide 24/7 telehealth treatment to anybody needs it, when they need it, right there in their community. That means, just as we did in the past, call that prescription in, have psychological counseling available to them 24/7, go down to the pharmacy, get that medication, and when you start on it, you're not wanting drugs anymore. It takes away that urge for the drug. And they're using some of the newest drugs that are out there. I can tell you the new drug Brixadi, which lasts for 30 days. Just think about it. One treatment and 30 days. You don't have to take any more medication or anything. And the longer you take it, it even lasts past the 30 days, that people don't have that urge for drugs. And they're home. They're with their family. They're working at their job, and they're not locked up someplace in some other state or some other county or some other community and away from their home and family and kids or whatever. And so that's why we want to get the treatment installed in the communities where they can provide that. And it's the data that we provide. We don't provide names or anything like that. We provide whether they're male or female, what their age is, and how the success rate is the treatment in that community, not statewide, but in that local Rotary community.
Awesome. You're coming into Roswell next week on, I think, Thursday lunch. So, Gordon, share with our viewers, if somebody's out there listening and they want to come to find out more about Rotary and hear Larry speak, where would they go, and what would be the information you could pass on to them?
Sure. So we meet every Thursday at noon. Our program starts at 12:15, and we have a great lunch known for the best fried chicken in Georgia. So you can come have some fried chicken.
Oh, I can hardly wait.
Yeah. There's probably a few other clubs out there that would argue that their fried chicken's better, but that's what we've been known for a lot of years.
Yeah.
and it's at Roswell Area Park. It's off of Woodstock Road in Roswell, and plenty of parking, plenty of space. It's not a glamorous location. We meet in a cinder block gym, facility, but we have our own kitchen, and we do it up right. We've got tablecloths, and we have our own Roswell Rotary china and everything. So it ends up being a nice location when it's all set up and done. And folks are certainly welcome to come and hear Larry speak.
Awesome. Larry, when you go into a Rotary Club, what has been the typical response that you get once you have that time with that club?
Well, as I told you, we're about a 98% success rate of getting the club to form a committee before we ever leave. But we actually, and Gordon, I've passed this along to him, if they have an Interact club, I'd like for them to bring a couple of their Interact students to the presentation, because when the club hears from their local kids the question I'm going to ask them and the answer they're going to give, they're going to be, it's not coming from me now. This is your local community, your kids. They're telling you what's going on. They're usually pretty shocked. I can tell you that. It's interesting. I was in Texas last week, and I'm a big fan of Seven Brew Coffee, and I always go in there and I pull into Seven Brew Coffee at really close to where this club's going to meet. And the girl comes up the car and she sees my Rotary emblem on my shirt. She says, "Oh, I'm in the Interact Club." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Let me ask you this question." And when I asked her this question, he stood there for 10 minutes with all these cars behind me telling me what was going on in the school. And I took back to the Rotary Club, and this is from your girl. Her name was Gia. I said, "This is Gia, one of your Interact kids. This is what she told me. You don't believe me? Invite her to your next meeting." And actually, this week, she was invited to the club to repeat to them what she told me. And so that's when the Rotary Club hears it from their local community. What's really going on is what really sparks the interest, because a lot of people just don't believe it's really happening. They still do not believe it.
Yeah. Gordon, what would you, if you had a magic wand and you were going to use that wand for any wish, and what would you like to see this year for the Project SMART and for the work that Larry's doing with helping to educate people?
So I sort of do have a magic wand. I've got about $100,000.
Okay.
We still have about $100,000 left in our money we've gotten from the opioid trust to go do some of these things.
Yeah.
We were on a tight timeline last year. We did the kits and the disposal units. And I'd love to see more of our clubs leverage that money to do the Train the Trainer event, so we can start to build the army that goes out into the schools and into the first responders and starts training folks on how to combat this crisis. We've got a great relationship, as Larry mentioned. When we do those trainings, we'll provide them with the OPV, the drug to counteract. It's a great program. We didn't really have the time to implement that last year, but I would love to see us use some of those additional Project SMART resources over the next year and use this money. Not that we didn't use it wisely last year. The kits and the disposal units are great, but to really start building the team or the army of folks that can go out and help us with this crisis all across our state. So that's my wish or magic wand, and
awesome.
And we've got money to do it. So there's no reason to not do it.
Yeah.
So I can tell you, Pete, that as I told you, Tallahassee, Florida, which was our test city, still does overdose training. And actually, on Thursday of last week, they still train every new school teacher in Tallahassee, Florida, and they held 154 school teachers. And next week, they're training 145 coaches, assistant coaches, and all their staff in all the schools in Tallahassee, Florida on overdose training. And they do this every year, and they make the news with it every year. The newspaper always comes out and writes a story. And, we're lucky the lady that happens to be the superintendent of the public schools in Tallahassee, Florida, is a Rotarian, and she's actually an overdose trainer.
What are you mentioned Buckhead, and that's at 6 o'clock, I think, and you're going to be training. What's the difference between that and what Gordon's club is going to do?
So Gordon's club is doing just the medication and drug disposal, the M, and they're also doing the part of the awareness, which is the OD rescue boxes. But part of the A is also our overdose training, because that's where the OPVI is in the boxes. And so the overdose training is about the medication that is in those boxes. And so we have to train everybody. And the reason we have to train everybody is because everybody is so used to giving multiple doses of this other medication. We have to retrain them. You only need to give one dose. Do not give more than one dose, and you just stand back and you will see that you don't have to give multiple doses. And so that's the really big reason we do the training, is to train the people that don't know what overdose is, what the overdose medication is, but those that know why it's OPVI and why you only need to use one.
Okay. If there's a Rotary Club out there and they're listening, what do they need to do to have access to you and Project SMART? What would be the next step for them to take?
All they got to do is contact us at ragapnorthamerica.us is the website, or you can email me, Larry at ragapnorthamerica.us, or you can call. You can call my personal number, 913-705-0983 is my cell phone number.
Awesome.
I've already had 3 phone calls since we've been doing this, actually.
That's beautiful. We love when people are reaching out. So, Gordon, like if somebody is interested and they're in that Roswell area and they want to do more checking out Rotary, give us another idea of what would be the best way to go. Do they contact you? Is there a person within the club that they should reach out to? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can get a hold of me. I'm GORotaryDG@gmail.com. Or my phone number is 404-597-5434, and I'd be happy to host somebody if they want to come to our club. We have we're big club, so we've got a lot of infrastructure. We have a membership chair. This year it's Courtney Lott. She would do a fantastic job of getting somebody in. Our club meetings can be intimidating because you walk in the room, there's 150, 200 people there. If you don't know somebody, or don't have somebody to go with when you first get there, we do a great job with greeters and try to make people feel warm and welcome and get them connected. But a great way to meet some of our club is at our Alive in Roswell. We have a tent at our Alive in Roswell, and it's a much more casual place. You can come have a hot dog, grab a drink, sort of casually meet people and chat with folks, as a way to get to know some of our members before you show up at a meeting. But always happy to host someone.
Awesome. So, Larry, what would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from this time on this podcast?
Probably the biggest thing is for them to go to the local Rotary Club and see what they can do or how they can get involved. I mean, it's a Rotary Club project, and so if you're interested in this issue, go to the Rotary Club. We've had now 181 police fire chiefs join Rotary Club because of this project. And so, go to the Rotary Club, see what's about, sit through a meeting and tell them what your interest is, because that Rotary Club will help you get involved for sure.
That is so good. So, Gordon, what would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from this time on the podcast?
So if they're a Rotarian in our district, help us use this money and put it to good use. That's probably the biggest thing. I know that we'll be having some communication that'll go out sort of post podcast and Larry's visit to our district here. in ways in which people can do that and apply for that grant money. We have a great grant system that we can go in and apply for that money. That'll get up and running here shortly for this next Rotary year. But that's my big takeaway. Let's go out and start building that army and put this money to good use and train some trainers in our communities so that we can put an end to this crisis.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you all for the impact that you're making in the community, and we appreciate everything you're doing to making this more people aware of what is possible to eradicate the opioid addiction crisis. So thank you so much for your time on this podcast.
Thanks for having me.